how can an applicant stand out from the hundreds of CVs that you receive at Gardner Aerospace, James?
That's a really good question. I think I put myself in that position when receiving CVs. What always impresses me is if somebody's tailored a CV. So I'm picking on specifically on the CV now, but actually a well-designed, well thought out CV that feels like you're applying for a job for me with my business, not you're applying for a job, if that makes sense. So it isn't designed for 100 applications. It's designed for an application with Gardner Aerospace. I think that makes you stand out. And usually you can see if somebody's gone to the effort of making an application that's tailored to this particular role. So I think that's one thing. I think the other thing I would always, in terms of tips as well is make sure that your LinkedIn profile's polished. The phrase I would use is that 90% of the impact is in the last 10% of effort. And quite often you can put a profile or you can do some work that's 90% there, but actually the impact's in the last 10%. So make sure it's polished, make sure it's current, because depending on the level that you're hiring at, of course, a more senior role, I'll take a CV, but the first thing I'll do is look up that person on social media, and if their platform is scruffy, out of date, I won't bother interviewing them. And I do sometimes make decisions on that basis, to be honest. So I think that's important as well.
So my next question is to Phil. How can people break into the industry to develop a career in manufacturing?
Great question, Yasmin. I think, first thing to say is manufacturing and engineering are both really, really important to the UK economy, particularly after COVID and after Brexit. It's an absolute key part of the economy, and it's certainly an area that people should be interested in because there's nothing better than making stuff, and being part of businesses that make stuff is just a fantastic place to be. How to break into it? I mean, the thing is that it embraces a lot of different skill sets. I mean, you heard from James there about some of the more formal skill sets in the bigger businesses, but where you're looking at smaller businesses like ours, the best way to break in is simply to, firstly, if you've got an interest in it, is to reach out to companies that are in it and people who are in it, because we're looking for talent. I mean, all of us in our own ways are looking for talent. We're recruiting for 2 or 3 different roles at the moment. Sales is a particular one. So I think it's, if you're interested in it, whether you're the engineer or whether you're the person who is interested in marketing it, selling it, sorting out the processes for it, then just put yourself out there and find out, because there will be a good opportunity for you if you're willing to take the initiative and just put yourself out there.
Yeah, most definitely. And I totally agree with you there, Phil. I think in our Back in Britain event, one of our presenters, they said that everything is made, so everything is manufactured. And if you just think about that, and in fact, if you want to break the industry,
this is the only industry that actually creates value. I mean, the service industries, everyone goes on about services, but all they do is make money out of kind of nothing, and they don't make anything, they don't produce any value, they just steal value from other people. So manufacturing and engineering is where it's at if you want to be part of rebuilding the economy.
And for you, Charles, just thinking about the actual skills that James was talking on a little bit about earlier. So the courses that people could take, the skills that essentially are needed within the aerospace sector specifically. But for you, what qualities does your business look for in candidates? When someone passes you their CV and they have that interview, what are you looking for in them when they come to it?
Well, there's a number of things, and actually, I suppose with engineering, there's a number of levels that somebody can enter a company anyway. I mean, obviously, if someone can get themselves qualified, that's marvellous. If the more qualifications which are relevant to engineering that you can bring into a place. I mean, obviously, you've also got to bear in mind it's not all about machining and engineering in an engineering company. I mean, there's a need for sales skills, there's a need for marketing skills, there's a need for, you know, vast range of skills in a company. So so that's always one thing, the first thing, qualifications. But of course, one thing that's brilliant is experience. If someone can demonstrate that they've got vast experience in an area, that's again marvelous for the company. And that's, if you can demonstrate that you've got a skill set that we're looking for, you can demonstrate that in a number of ways, you know, the qualifications, experience. If someone can show a good understanding of what's needed, you know, that bit of knowledge, that's very valuable to us as well. So but I think, you know, one of the things is to come into manufacturing, just showing that real interest in manufacturing and to show that passion for it, you know, that's going to put someone in a good position, I think, if you're looking for engineering. So yeah,
most definitely. Thank you for that, Charles. And Craig, you know, just thinking about the process before you accept those CVs, and then you're looking at the candidates and the skills and the attributes that they potentially hold for your business. What do you think is the best way for a job seeker to approach an employer if they are interested in a role?
So, I mean, it's an interesting question. I think the first thing for any any candidate is to invest in their own success, is to do a lot to kind of research tips on how to make themselves more impressionable, creating a longer impression, improving communication skills, enhancing kind of interpersonal skills, and so on. And I think once a candidate really invests in themselves and creates a knowledge base of how to remain really in the knowledge set of any recruiting business, once you've done that, you've then got to try and really approach it and be different from anybody else. And a lot of that really is about alignment from the candidate and the business that's recruiting at the time. So I would always say to a candidate, go and find, don't search for a role on Indeed or on LinkedIn or anything like that. I would go and find the company. I would find the company that better aligns to what feels right to you, on your values, on you know, the employee that you really want to build a career with. And I would find that company first, and then I would be almost looking for the role that you want to do in life. What career do you want? What you know, what does that look like? Then I would be almost selling yourself at that point and knocking on the door. You know, once you prepare, knock on the door of that business, sell the best product that you have, which is yourself. And don't just necessarily sell your current self, but sell your future self too. So I think whenever I'm looking for candidates, I'm looking for somebody that fits the culture of the business, not necessarily a whole swag bag full of skills and experience, but more the personality traits. And that's something that really resonates with me when an individual walks through the door, is not the skill sets, but more the behavioural traits, which are more ingrained. So I hope that's answered your question.
So my next question is to you, Marie. Why do you believe manufacturing makes for a good career? Just thinking about the things that we've just discussed just then.
Well, not every day is the same. So in engineering particularly, the problem solving, so exactly what sort of James and Phil said, you know, you really have to think on your feet sometimes, and you do have to adapt quite quickly, so to change. So sort of that's sort of what I believe really in sort of a career in engineering and manufacturing. And there's so many different opportunities, and the roles are varied. So I started out in law, so I would never have thought that I would be transferring my skills into an engineering business, but they blend really well. And so having attention to detail and being quite meticulous in the planning, so that's very, very important. So yeah, that's sort of how I see careers in manufacturing.